I want to provide some insights on Chevron's acquisition of Hess and what a potential severance package could look like for a Chevron employee and some key financial planning considerations. My name is Stephen Chambers, and I'm a wealth manager here at Willis Johnson & Associates. So to provide some context, Chevron struck up a deal with Hess to purchase them for a whopping $53 billion, which would make it Chevron's largest mergers and acquisition deal in history. Recently, on May 28th, Hess's shareholders voted for approval of the acquisition, which is a major milestone for this deal. But there's a load of uncertainty as a Chevron employee. One, will I be laid off? Two, if so, would a severance package be offered? And today what I want to do is kind of dive into some historical mergers and acquisition deals with Chevron, talk about what a severance package could look like, and then sum it up with some key financial planning considerations specific to Chevron employees. So if we look back in 2020, when Chevron purchased Noble, Chevron laid off 10 to 15% of its own workforce, right? So could a layoff happen if Chevron acquires Hess? Potentially. So where could we expect layoffs? Well, if you're a Hess employee and you're working in, say, Guyana, you're probably safe. Whereas if you're a Chevron employee working on a different asset, you're also probably safe. The challenge is where there's going to be overlap with Chevron and Hess, where we could potentially see some layoffs. So things to consider if you're a Chevron employee is should you accept the severance package if it's offered to you? What we do know in these situations is that Chevron generally steers the ship. Back in 2020, Chevron had control over the acquisition and therefore kind of wrote what the severance packages looks like. So by looking at the historical severance packages with Noble and what's available on Chevron's website, we can kind of get an idea of what the severance package could look like, quantifying it, and giving you insights whether or not you should take it. So we know there will likely be packages based off previous acquisitions from Chevron, namely Noble Energy in 2020. The answer is to accept the package or not. And I think that's largely depends on your unique situation. But what we can do is take a look at what happened with the Noble acquisition to get a feel of what we can anticipate. So largely, when Chevron acquires a company, they take control of the severance packages. They call it a change of control situation. And if you are eligible for a severance, you will receive what's called qualifying termination. There's just some vocab words to be aware of. If you go to Chevron's website, however, because right now there's really nothing released on what a severance package from Chevron as an employee of Chevron would look like. But if we look at their website, we can get an idea of what you can expect. And so there will be a cash severance payment, usually associated with years of service and your salary. Your medical and pension benefits largely don't change. It kind of is what it is based off your years of service and age. And then lastly, what we do know is generally there are no changes to the LTIPs. There might be a prorated vesting schedule associated with the non-qualified stock options, but generally there's not an acceleration of unvested grants, et cetera, et cetera. So big picture, you could experience a cash severance payment. Your retiree medical and pension is what it is. Nothing changes there. And there's largely no changes to the LTIPs. So what does a typical severance from Chevron looks like? Generally, it's 2 weeks for every year of service with a maximum of 1 year of salary. So if your base salary is $200,000, if you meet the years of service criteria, the max severance would be $200,000. Doesn't factor in your SIP, unfortunately. There are severance calculations available on Chevron's HR website via Benefit Connect. You could log in and follow these prompts to determine what your severance could be. So after analyzing what your severance package could be, the next question is, are you financially independent? Financial independence is defined differently, right? Let's take a look at 3 of the primary levers of what we call financially independent. So 1, what are your cash flow sources in retirement, and do they cover your expenses? 2, where's your health insurance going to come from? That's a big driver in retirement. And then 3, what about your investments? Do you have the right investment strategy? How much cash reserves do you have? Right? So these are the things that we look at to determine if you take the severance package, are you financially independent, or do you need to find a job externally? So after you analyze what your severance package could be, you're contemplating, are you financially independent? The next thing is to really think about, like, what does the retirement timeline look like? I.e., what does cash flow look like in retirement? And this is what a typical cash flow in retirement situation looks like, right? While you're working, your income's high, and then you are retired, so the income falls right around the time you start taking Social Security, and then in your 70s, you start taking your required minimum distribution. So this is very typical of a American retiring these days, right? But as a Chevron employee, your situation is far more complex. You have things like stock options. If you get laid off, you get a vacation payout, right? You have your bonuses. Your severance might be paid out in 2 installments, so on and so forth. It's just more complex. And I show you this slide not to inundate you with data points and terminologies, but just to say this. It's really important that you work with a financial advisor that understands your Chevron-specific benefits so that we can make the most out of them in retirement so that we're not leaving money on the table. Well, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we publish video content like this regularly.